welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, where all things football are injected right to your veins, with your hosts, Matt Donnelly, Calvin Shoemake, and Jeff Mueller.
What is up, and welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Team Spotlight Series. It's a Friday. We're all happy about the weekend. It's time to relax, as a certain quarterback likes to say. And what better way to do that than to spend some time with just some of the best follows that we have on Twitter. Great football guys doing a lot of great work, work on the air. You guys probably know a lot of these guys, but I'm going to go ahead and give them a chance to introduce themselves right after I introduce the show and what we're doing. We're doing a 32-team series. We're on number 19. We're getting there. We're like over the hump, that halfway mark. But, man, today we get to talk about one of the most storied franchises in all of the NFL, the Green Bay Packers. Very unique franchise and the things that they do. And we like to do this because as the Dynasty Vipers, obviously, we think about these teams, we think about rookies, we think about all those things, but it's important to understand where these rookies are going to find themselves, the free agency, the cap situations, the moves that they're going to make, all things that can give you an edge in your dynasty league. So to help us go through the Green Bay Packers, we got an amazing group of guests here. I'm going to start with Dusty. If you will, just introduce yourself, tell everybody where they can find you, and just what you're working on now in the offseason.
Well, thank you first and foremost for having us on. This is anytime I get to sit and talk about my beloved Packers, I will do so. This is great. So thank you for having us on. I am one of the hosts of the Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football podcast. We are mainly redraft focused, but now that we're in the off season, we do dip our toes into Dynasty a little bit here. We're on every Tuesday night. You can find us on YouTube. My co-host is right below me on the screen. I don't know if that's the same for everyone else, but you can find me on Twitter doing all sorts of fantasy analytics, analysis, and other random stuff that pops into my head.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dusty. And hey, thank you. Like, I appreciate you being willing to come on. And Jake, how about you? Where can we find you? What are you working on these days?
Oh, I'm here and there. I'm out and about. You can find me right alongside that handsome gentleman up top every Tuesday when we record Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football. I'm on Twitter at Jake Trowbridge because that's my name. I also just started co-hosting the Ball Blast Football podcast with Kate and Michelle Majuk. So when I'm not doing DTFF, I'm getting my balls blasted.
Aren't we all? Kyle, how about you, buddy? What are you working on these days, and where can we find your work?
You can find all my work over at idpguys.org. Mostly write about IDP, being a defensive guy. Wrote an article. I did some rankings recently over there. Working on the rookie draft guide we got coming out that Calvin's working on as well, along with Coach Matt and a bunch of other really smart dudes. So hitting the rookie class. I've been hanging out with Hollywood Daryl on the IDP Nation podcast while Dan's away, just kind of keeping the seat warm. So that's been a lot of fun. So you can find me on Twitter at kbell54. Always available. Football, music, life, whatever. I'm always down to talk, and hit me up. DMs are always open as well.
What's been so cool about doing this is kind of getting the flavor of the different franchises. And, we've had fans from the teams, who know football, but like they love the team. And there's certain franchises that lend themselves to a certain type of fan. But the Packers have a very unique, I don't feel like there are very many long-lasting bandwagon type fans. Like, I feel like you're born into being a Packer fan, and that it's just one of those things that you carry with you as a mantle. So, Jake, I want to start with you. Like, what's it like? Tell me about your history with the team, how you became a fan, and a little bit about your experience being a Green Bay Packer fan.
It's funny that you said that about the bandwagon fans. I think I'm probably the closest thing to it because I was not a fan of football growing up. As a kid, we didn't watch football in my house. That wasn't a thing. It wasn't until I went to college and I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, that I really got into football. And as all things in Wisconsin, you just learn to love it as every day progresses. So it just got absorbed into my skin. It wasn't me. I didn't actively seek this out. It just sort of happened. And this was right in between the Favre and Aaron era. That's when I came on board as a Packers fan. So my first experiences were with the tumult. I think that's the word, the tumult of Favre handing off to Aaron, not handing off to Aaron. So that was an interesting time to come aboard all of this. As such, I've always been Team Aaron. So, get out of here, Brett. You're done. Move along. Let somebody else shine. So that's been my experience. I'm not quite as hardened of a Packers fan as many are.
No, I like that. That's a really good story, and it definitely seems like that might be as close, but I wouldn't call that bandwagon. Like it just seems like there's not like a halfway Packer fan. They're just all like all in or all out. Dusty, how about you? What's your history with the team?
I have been a Packer fan as long as I can remember. I'm born and raised in Wisconsin, so it's just kind of in my blood. I remember watching Don Majkowski back in the late 80s, right before Favre took over. So, I've been a Packer fan for way too long, or not long enough, depending on how you look at it. Watching the good old days with Majkowski, Sterling Sharp. I've been through the whole down era before we got really good and have had this amazing stretch of quarterback play here with our franchise.
Who's the first quarterback you remember?
Oh, Don Majkowski.
Don Majkowski? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember the game he got injured.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, yeah. I remember the game he got injured when Favre came in. I remember watching that game, and I was super stoked. I was like, yes, get Majkowski out of there. He's horrible.
The magic man.
Kyle, how about you?
I've been a Packer fan as long as I can remember. All my family, they're all Packer fans. My dad was a football coach for like 20 years at our high school. So I've been around football and been a fan of the Packers since I can remember. I vaguely remember the Magic Man. Yeah, I do. I had a T-shirt. I was pretty young. I grew up in that Favre era. A huge Favre fan. I do like Rodgers as well. I do love watching those, like the Favre Forever documentary and stuff. Kind of brings you back. Seeing the interactions with him and Holmgren are just like some of the best things ever. He used to just get Holmgren just as mad as he could be. I've been a fan forever. I live a couple hours from Lambeau, so I've been to quite a few games. I went to my first playoff game against Seattle last year.
Nice.
It was awesome. Bleed green and gold, man. Good or bad, I'm in.
That's really cool. There's so many things about the Packers that kind of draw you in. Like, just as somebody who doesn't, isn't like in the culture, there's still Brett Favre was just so charismatic. He was so, he pulled you in, like his energy, all those things. But even like the Lambeau Leap, the fact that there's not like an owner, like there's like, it's like the ticket holders, it just seemed like there's a very different type of culture, different, very unique things that kind of brings you in. So as an outsider, I've always had a lot of respect for the Packers. As a 2020 sports fan, I was obviously rooting for my New Orleans Saints, who were battling for that number one spot with you. But of course, the Packers wound up getting that number one spot and, finished in a similar spot to the year before. But I certainly would still say, it was an up and down season. Maybe didn't end the way that you wanted to. Lost to the Super Bowl champions, obviously, and not what you wanted. But what about you? And Kyle, I'll start back with you. What was 2020 like as a Packer fan?
It was a good season. Obviously, we got the number one seed. We got home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I still having a hard time swallowing the loss to Tampa Bay. There's days I wake up and I still just cringe. It was tough to watch the Super Bowl, I tell you that. But it was a good year. Aaron Rodgers was fantastic, obviously. 4,300 yards, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Just he was on point all year. Our defense was up and down. They seemed to get better towards the end. They were atrocious against the run for a while. That was tough to watch. To say the least. I see some, but no, I mean it was a good year. Really, really fun team to watch this year. Just a really tough ending, to say the least.
Yep. How about you, Dusty? Let's go to you next. Like, what was 2020? Obviously, a lot of expectations. The team was really good, but what was the day in, day out as a Packer fan in 2020?
Well, as I'm sure you could ask any Packer fan, we're eternal optimists around here, and we expect only Super Bowls from our squad here. So going into the season, obviously we had very high expectations, especially after coming off that 13-3 season the previous year. To do that 2 seasons in a row, we're doing something right. Obviously very disappointing that we didn't make it to the Super Bowl. With the way our offense was clicking all season long, it looked like basically a shoo-in that we could beat any team at any given day with that offense. And all we needed was, at least one stop from our defense, which they were doing from time to time. But disappointing that we didn't make it. But all in all, I mean, you can't shake a stick at 13-3.
And then an MVP for Aaron Rodgers in kind of a resurgence year. And so and I get it, the Saints season didn't end the way but we wanted it to either. But there's good things that would happen this year, right, Jake?
Yeah, sure. Justin said you can't shake a stick at 13-3. I choose to shake that stick. Like you said, we are optimists. And I will say, though, at the very beginning of this season, I was optimistic, but I certainly wasn't expecting to have another 13-3 year, because I think we can all agree that draft threw a lot of us for a loop. I don't know that any of us thought, yes, this is the receiving core that's going to get the job done this year. And it turns out, we didn't need a core. We just needed basically Devonte Adams, and that was good enough. But then we went on this ride, and it was up and down. But I did start to believe towards the end that this was our year. Like, I got that feeling. I didn't get that last year. Last year, it felt much different to me. This just seemed like, a team of destiny. Like, I'm not scared about this NFC Championship game, and I should have been. But it was certainly a great season in terms of memorable moments. A lot of these games were really great and fun to watch. But there's always next year.
Let's talk about that draft. I mean, tell me, and Jake, I'll just toss it right back to you, because you mentioned it. It was a big story going into the year. It was you take Jordan Love and you take Dylan and you take. I don't even remember the tight end's name. That's how, I guess, meaningful and impactful he was. But what was the talk around Green Bay and amongst the fans? Because if you guys were a little bit unsure, it didn't come across that way to anybody else.
Oh, then you are not living inside of my head during that time. It was nothing but agony. And Dustin and I, we watched the draft and we're just frantically texting back and forth. They still haven't taken a wide receiver. Dustin, they still haven't taken a wide receiver. When are they going to, and we get into round 4 and 5 and they're still not doing it. And it almost felt spiteful at that point. Round 7, you could have just at least taken somebody in round 7 just so you could say that you did it, but you didn't. And I was salty about it for months afterwards. It was pleasant. No, Josiah DeGuara, who was the tight end draft in the 3rd round. No, he didn't make an impact this year. Robert Tonyan did, and that was a pleasant surprise. So there was enough pleasant surprise to make up for that draft, and hopefully it pays dividends moving forward. But I still consider it not a bust entirely, but definitely a disappointment.
Kyle, we like to make sure we address the questions that come in, and a really important question from Matt, alluding to what we talked about a little bit before the show. Matt just wants to know where the experts are. That's an inside joke. If you don't know that, you may just need to tune in, some other time. But clearly, Matt, the expert is right here. Kyle is right here in front of you, just so you know.
Not me.
And Matt or Kyle, what about you? Because you're a defensive guy. You think about IDP. You think about defensive football a lot. And to me, yes, wide receiver was part of it, but San Francisco the year before, threw the ball 9 times and was able to win. So the run defense was kind of something that I was hoping that the Packers might add. What about you? Thinking from the defensive side, was that kind of where your head was too?
Yeah, actually, when they traded up in the first round, maybe it was just the optimist in me. I really thought they traded up to get Patrick Queen. I did. So we needed a linebacker. They were jumping Baltimore, and there's another team there that needed a linebacker. And I'm like, I think that's the move. Maybe I was just being optimistic. Who the hell knows? But I certainly wasn't expecting a quarterback. I know that. I didn't have much to say when the pick came in. I kind of just stared at the TV and made sure I was putting the letters together right. Yeah, I did. I honestly, I thought Patrick Queen might have been the pick. I thought there was a good chance. And yeah, I was in shock when the pick came in. I really was. And Dylan in the second round too was a surprise for me. I didn't quite see that coming, but I get it because Lafleur is going to look to establish a run. It's what he did in Tennessee, and we saw a little of that against Tennessee this year when Dylan had his big game there. And in December in Lambeau when it's snowing against a solid team like Tennessee, and he did what they drafted him for. That was good to see. So,
well. And the good thing is, I guess what it felt like maybe Matt Lafleur coming in wanted to make sure he had an opportunity to put his stamp of approval on the team. And I guess I want to just flip that back around and ask you, as Packer fans, scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with Matt Lafleur and his coaching staff and what he's done there? So, Dusty, I'll start with you.
Oh, I feel like I'm going to shoot way too high here on the 1 to 10 scale. I would give Lafleur a solid 8. I really like what he's done. I love what he's done with the offense. Obviously, in 2019, it was very much an up and down season with the offense. They would be on fire for a half and then just totally drop off. They got together in the offseason with Rodgers, the offensive coordinator, and really pared down the playbook and all had input on what this offense should look like. And you saw the fruition of that this year with Rodgers having another MVP season. So from the offensive side, I really love what Lafleur is doing. The defensive side, I get Petting was a holdover from the previous regime, which I didn't necessarily hate at the time. But we saw there's just way too many holes on this defense. And whether that's scheme or actual players, remains to be seen. The book is kind of open yet on what this new defensive coordinator hire is going to be and how that defense is going to look this next season. But I think overall, you got to be pretty pleased with how Lafleur has crafted this team.
Nobody scored more points this season than the Green Bay Packers. Jake, I'll go to you next. How do you rate your coaching staff after a couple of years now?
I think I'm more lenient on him than most. Actually, I wouldn't even say lenient. I'm pretty thrilled. I mean, I rate him on the scale. I give him a 9.5. I still got wood. It's fantastic. To go 26-6 in your first 2 seasons as a head coach, that is damn impressive. I don't care. Obviously, yes, there was ups and downs. And obviously, he has an MVP quarterback. But if you go back to the couple of years before Lafleur came to town, we're not talking about Aaron Rodgers as the elite specimen. We're talking about him being on the downslope of his career. So whether it's just the personality of Lafleur that really meshes better with Aaron, and that's led to Aaron maybe being a better leader or getting the offense humming more, whatever it is, I'm thrilled with a 26-6 seasons, 2 seasons with 2 NFC Championship appearances. Yeah, you'd love to go all the way, but can't shake a stick, as my friend Dustin would say at that.
Can I just interject here that Bill Belichick only had 16 wins in his first 2 seasons as a head coach. So, we got a Hall of Fame coach here on our hands.
Boom. So at least 12 Super Bowls then. That's right.
That's right.
Where we're going. Kyle, and Dusty mentioned it, new defensive coordinator. How do you feel about the direction of the defense?
I was actually hoping that Jim Leonard was going to get the job from Wisconsin. He turned it down. Joe Barry, I guess, like Dusty said, there's still some things yet to be seen there with what our defense is going to be. I've heard rumblings of a 3-4 again. Like Dusty said as well, Pettin was a holdover when Fleur got there, and I liked the things we were doing. Our defense seemed to improve towards the end of the year. We got a little bit better at stopping the run. Rashawn Gary, made a big time improvements this year from his first year. Our safeties are solid. We could use another corner, to say the least, across from Jair Alexander. I think a healthy Kenny Clark is a huge piece to our defense too. When he's fully healthy and a full go, he is just a monster on the interior. So I like where it's headed. A lot of things yet to be seen with the Joe Barry hiring and everything. Just gonna kind of wait and see where we go for agency in the draft here and what he has to say, and we'll go from there. But and as far as Lafleur, I'm a big Lafleur fan. I think he's a great coach, and really like the things he does, and he knows how to utilize his personnel when they're in or out or game flow. He's top notch.
Well, let's set the stage for that, because obviously I want to dig in with the draft, and I want to dig in with free agency and moves that they should be making in the offseason. Let's set the stage, because obviously the cap situation coming off of 2020, most people are expecting it to go up. It's not going to go up. Now it's going to go down. Still don't know exactly what that number is. But last I looked, even including the cuts today, it was like the Packers were about 13 million over. Now listen, the Saints are like, I don't know, 300 million over. I don't know what they are. It's crazy, whatever they are. So it's not that bad, but there's got to be some moves that need to be made. And obviously, Matt mentions it here. Kirksey was one of the cap casualties. That must be an inside joke. I don't even know right there, Kyle. I don't know what that one is.
We made a bet. I don't know if we bet anything or he was just bragging rights that I said Kirksey would have a better year than Kwiatkowski, and we had some banter back and forth, and I'll never hear the end of it. But yes, you did win, Coach.
Kirksey cut, Rick Wagner cut. There's talk about maybe Preston Smith, Dean Lowry. Like there's got to be a little bit of moves that need to be made. Jake, let me ask you, like, as we get into this, like, do you expect them to be players in free agency? You expect them to be able to make that much room?
I don't know how they can, but as I've learned over the last couple of years, the cap does seem to be magic, and some teams are just able to make this thing fluctuate however they need to make it fluctuate. So maybe the Packers will be that team this year, but if they're looking at re-signing guys, I think a lot of it comes down to, do you re-sign Aaron Jones? Because if you franchise tag him, even I believe the number for running backs is just over 8 million. Correct me if I'm wrong for this year.
8.5 is what I saw. Yeah.
Perfect. So, if you do that for 1 year, it could affect how much you're able to make a play for free agents. I know everybody's on the JJ Watt lottery train. I don't know that we'll be able to land the big dog. It would be incredible. You move, like you said, if Preston Smith is on the bubble to be cut and you're able to bring in a JJ Watt, I'm fine with that. But I don't know that we see many splashes this year, because we got that a couple years ago, and that's kind of what has us itchy with the cap right now. So I don't know how reasonable that is.
How about you, Dusty? I mean, I obviously, and you mentioned it. The other thing is being able to do, like Devonte Adams. Apparently, they're working on an extension that could push some that cap money later, and that could help. Making potentially talking about him being the highest paid wide receiver in the history of the NFL, and certainly looked like he deserved that this year. But so if they do that, I mean, JJ Watt, yes, you're all the way in.
Well, how can he not be? He's a hometown boy, born and raised in Wisconsin. I mean, I think that's every Wisconsinite's wet dream there is to have JJ sign with the team. I think it could happen. It kind of depends on what he's going to be asking for in free agency. I don't know if at this point in his career, if he wants to go to a team that legitimately has a shot to win the Super Bowl, and he'll give some sort of discount for that. I mean, because let's be honest, he's made boatloads of money in the NFL. So if he's willing to give us a discount, yeah, I'm all on board. But if he wants to break the bank yet, I think that money could be spent elsewhere here in free agency for our team.
He did talk about the quarterback being really important to him, and obviously there's a pretty good one there in Green Bay. Kyle, what would it be like if Aaron Rodgers and JJ Watt were to hang out, like forced to hang out in a house alone for like 3 days? What would that be like?
I think it'd be pretty interesting. I don't know. It's it seemed like two different personalities, but they're like maybe they would sit down and have a glass of scotch together. I mean, I'm sure they'd get along great. They've both been in the league a long time. They could probably put down a bottle of scotch and tell some stories. And at the end of the day, say, all right, now let's go get this Super Bowl, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I like obviously that would be, and he could be signed any time, and obviously free agency is going to matter on this next question. But let's move a little bit to the draft. And if you had to say, like, whether it's the draft or whether it's free agency, if you had to say what is the biggest need for the Packers team, Jake, what would that biggest need be?
It still is defensive line, in my humble opinion, followed very closely by wide receiver and quarterback as like my 2A and 2B.
Okay. Dusty, what do you think? Biggest needs for the Packers?
Oh, I'm torn here. I want to say defense, probably linebacker or cornerback. Obviously, we need a wide receiver as well, but I don't think you need to spend a day one pick on a wide receiver necessarily. When you got someone like Davante, all you need is a solid role player there for that number 2 piece, and it'll still be fantasy relevant, let's be honest. But our defense really needs some help, and I would like to see them shore that up this year.
Kyle, I wanted to come to you last because I figured defense was going to be the thing that was mentioned. Like, so let's talk about the draft because you are covering a lot of those prospects. Like when you think about first round, second round, third round, Packers have all their picks. Like, who would you be thinking about in the draft that can help plug those holes and be exactly what the Packers need to get over that hump and get to the Super Bowl next year?
Yeah, defensively, I would love to see them take a guy like Zaven Collins from Tulsa, or betting on quarterback. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Mac Jones
Rodgers would be really motivated, like super duper motivated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Zaven Collins and also Nick Bolton from Missouri. They're kind of in that range, I think. Both of those guys, I think, are really good linebackers. Collins is a big athletic dude that is just an absolute playmaker. He can drop in coverage, he can rush, he can do a lot of things. Bolton is just a hammer in the middle, physical dude, plays downhill well. He fills the run gaps. He can cover a lot of ground. He's real instinctive, 3-down skill set. I also think we're going to take a long look at offensive tackle. I know that's not very exciting, but I think I've seen that mocked quite a bit. But I would love to see one of those linebackers there because I think that would be a huge piece for us to pair with one of the guys we have.
Yeah. What about Dusty? What about you? What do you think? I guess, do you have like certain guys picked out that you think in the draft that they could look at? Have you looked at mock drafts and you're like, yeah, that's the guy. That's the way I hope that it falls.
Oh, I'm going to be totally honest here. Looking at rookies is not my forte here. I rely on people that are much smarter than myself to tell me how good rookies are.
Me too.
So I'm just hopeful that Goody here, our GM, really does his homework and listens to his scout team, and we just hit on some good prospects here.
What do you think, Jake?
I think I'm exactly the same as Dustin. We talk about this on our podcast all the time. I don't start looking at rookies until like June, until the sun is like beaming on my sweet, innocent face here. I don't even dive into that. So yeah, I got nothing. I don't even know names outside of the big, I know Trevor Lawrence. I heard that guy's pretty good. I don't think we need him, but he's out there.
Fair enough. Well, Kyle, I mean, obviously, I've asked you a lot of the defensive questions, but you're not just a defensive guy. Like, do you have like certain wide receivers, like that's been mentioned in this show as well on something that needs to be upgraded? Do you have certain ones that you think would be the right fit? Like Elijah Moore is a guy that I've heard a lot as being a great fit. Do you agree with that, or is there another name you're hearing?
I like Elijah Moore. Another guy I don't think he's a first-round pick, maybe a day 2 guy. I really like Tylen Wallace out of Oklahoma State. I think he could do a lot of things, and he's a guy I'm just a huge fan of. He's a guy in probably the day 2 range that maybe we could take a look at. It's a good wide receiver class, and I'm a little gun shy after last year seeing 7 rounds of nothing. I don't know what to think. But no, there's definitely some players,
I think there's something to that, and this is the comment coming in here from Matt Elijah Moore being very similar to Randall Cobb, and that's kind of what I've heard too. But but let me that's obviously an old system. That's not the system that's in place, and what Matt LaFleur is trying to do in Green Bay, right? I mean, is he worried about getting a Randall Cobb, or is he thinking about building that bully that was built in Tennessee and trying to have that type of team? Jake, do you think he may not necessarily prioritize wide receiver because he wants to just build a bully?
I mean, he's already told us what his prioritizations are at this point, and I don't expect them to change drastically just to appease the fan base, because Lord knows that didn't happen last time. Now, if we did get a Randall Cobb-esque player in this draft, I would be excited regardless, even if that doesn't necessarily fit the scheme, because Randall Cobb is secretly one of my favorite Green Bay players. I think the dude was so underrated. He put together some of my all-time favorite plays, many against the Bears. He was like their kryptonite. He was a big play guy, and I would like that. Also, I don't know if Elijah Moore is good on the return team like Randall Cobb was, but we could certainly use a player like that on special teams. But no, I don't know if he'll prioritize that.
See, that makes me think of Kadarius Toney. That's who that makes me think about, because he is a difference maker in the return game. That's for sure. Dusty, I guess when you think about the team that they're trying to build there, any other thoughts on that? Do you think that they because again, they scored the most points in the NFL, but when we think about Aaron Rodgers, he had a tremendous year. No one threw more touchdown passes than Aaron Rodgers, but only 24 pass attempts. It's not like he was out there airing it out. Do you think that is, 24th in the NFL in pass attempts? They were 12th in rushing attempts. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a free agent. They did backfill. They've got Dillon. They got Williams. Do you think more of the same where there's going to be a low volume? Even if they get a rookie, is it going to be a good situation for them to be in?
I think you're definitely going to see more of the same as what we saw this last year. I wasn't a big fan of the A.J. Dillon pick during the draft last year, but he did show later in the season why they drafted him. Obviously, Aaron Jones is going to be a priority free agent for a lot of teams out there, going to be commanding top dollar that we can't pay. So having him A.J. Dillon slide into that number one role will be perfect from what we saw. I think they're going to re-sign Williams. He's a good pass blocker, good pass receiver or pass catcher. And whether they, like I said, I don't think they need to take a big time round one, round two wide receiver rookie. They just need someone that's going to be a good complement to Davante. And whether maybe they pick up one of these free agents that's out there that maybe will fit the system. Maybe perhaps someone LaFleur has some familiarity with, Corey Davis coming in as the wide receiver 2 on the team. Probably won't command that much money on the free agent market. I think they were pleasantly surprised with Tonyan's breakout season this year. Otherwise, they wouldn't have drafted another tight end in the draft this year. So, I think with Dillon, they're going to keep doing the same thing they did this last year.
Yeah. And that's probably, it's smart, right? It worked. It's not like this was a losing formula. That's a formula that was certainly leading to, to winning games, turn around, handing the ball off. And no one's more efficient than Aaron Rodgers. It's awesome to watch him work and what he's doing. And, nobody even knew Robert Tonyan could do anything that he's doing. And, it's all of a sudden he was one of the best tight ends in the league. It was really cool to see him break out that way. He isn't a restricted free agent, so hopefully, he does come back. Mercedes Lewis was talking about coming back. He's 37 years old. That's another guy really still, even at 37, really great blocker. Alan Lazard is he's a restricted free agent as well. He's the kind of guy that would like. But what about Devin Funchess, his great illustrious Packer career.
I was waiting for this name to come up, and I didn't want to be the one to jinx it, to say it out loud first. So thank you.
Well, go ahead. What do you have to say? What's your Devin Funchess take?
Look, I was more upset last year because Devin Funchess was not going to come in and just fix everything. But I think that was like the expectation because it was the only wide receiver move that happened. But now, if he comes in and at least provides a little bit of competition into the wide receiver room, I'm fine with it. Do that and draft somebody and get another cheap free agent and throw them all into the bucket. Let's see what happens.
Kyle, do you comp Devin Funchess to Kyle Pitts?
No. not
if
really.
only.
If only. Yeah. If only. I'm with Jake. If he comes in and gives us anything, I'll be pretty happy.
Okay.
Literally anything.
Yeah, literally anything. Yep, absolutely.
Is Aaron Jones in a Packer uniform next year? Anybody?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think. I think he's going to command. He's going to want the big time running back money on the market, and we drafted Dylan for a reason. And a lot of
this is his one shot to get paid.
Yeah,
he was a fourth or fifth round draft pick. Came in a very low contract there for the team, so he's going to want to make his money while he can.
Yeah, I saw it was like $600,000 he made last year, or something like that. Just incredible contract that take advantage of there. It'd be kind of sad to see him go. Like, I feel like his best opportunity, like from a fantasy perspective, would be to just stay right there in Green Bay. But he's a fit like almost anywhere, right? I mean, like you guys watched him play. I mean, you feel like there's anywhere he could go where he wouldn't be successful, Jake?
Well, he supposedly wasn't a fit for Matt Lafleur's offense, and he still looked fantastic. I know a lot of people talked about like, oh boy, he's just kind of going rogue, and he doesn't really fit the system, and that's why they put in Jamaal Williams so often. It's like, well, I think he fit it pretty damn good just based on what I saw every game. But yeah, I do think he could be a fit most places. I think from a fantasy perspective, there's probably 3 or 4 places that he could go to and maintain his level of fantasy production or raise it. I mean, if he goes to Arizona, sure. If he goes to Atlanta, absolutely. But I would love to see him back in Green Bay. And nothing against Jamaal Williams at all. But, let that guy go get some RB2 money somewhere else and let us have the AJ and AJ experience in that backfield.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That would be quite a two-headed monster. Like what Lafleur tried to do with Henry and Dion Lewis. Like imagine that with like Dylan and Aaron Jones. That would be really cool. So let me ask you a couple of questions about free agency because obviously it just kind of depends on the money. But I don't know. You guys know Matt Schneidman and covers the Packers for The Athletic. I don't know if you can know that name, but I came across it when I was studying for this, one of his articles. He seems to cover the Packers pretty religiously, and here are some names that he said, and I kind of want to see the reaction from you guys, okay? He thinks they could bring in James White.
I guess if you let both Aaron Jones and Jamaal Williams walk and you just strictly want the pass catcher back there along to go with A.J. Dillon, who, by the way, he didn't get many targets, but he actually did look capable catching a ball in stride last year, so that's cool. But I guess it makes sense because James White would be pretty cheap, I would imagine.
Corey Davis, you mentioned that one, Dusty. The fit seems to make sense. Okay,
yeah, I would love it.
All right.
Yeah.
This was a weird one to me. T.Y. Hilton.
I'm done with a certain tier of old wide receiver at this point, and he happens to fall into that bucket. Him and AJ Green, I hope you have wonderful lives, but I don't want you anywhere near Lambeau.
How about another Titan connection? Kyle, what do you think about Jonnu Smith joining the Packers?
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm for it. I know they like to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, and Mercedes Lewis could probably literally just wear number 78 and be a tackle. He's not going to catch too many balls. Tonyan and Jonnu Smith would be that would be a pretty sexy combo there, man. Yeah, I'm for
it. Dusty, let me ask you this one. He mentions Le'Veon Bell as a good target for the Green Bay Packers.
That doesn't move the needle much for me.
That's
I think Bell's days are well past him, and I don't know what kind of money he would expect to command in the free agent market at this time. So if it was a reasonable contract, sure, as like a pass catching back, change of pace, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but only at the right price.
Jake, what's your favorite outside of those guys? You know, there's a lot bigger names, maybe better names. Maybe it's one of those guys. Maybe it's somebody else. Like, what would be a great, like, if you're thinking Packers, but if you're also just thinking from a fantasy perspective, like, what would be awesome to have your Packers do in free agency?
Just give me a wide receiver, man. I don't even care who it is at this point. Just go out and give me one. Pick a name out of the hat. I'd heard Curtis Samuel floated as an idea there. And I think that'd be interesting. One, because he does have some utility in the backfield. He is a little bit more gadgety, for the lack of a better word. So I'd be interested in Curtis Samuel there. Actually, not from a fantasy perspective, but on the defensive side of the ball, I'd even heard like Patrick Peterson talking about the cornerback hole. And that might be interesting. And I don't know how much of a salary he's going to command, but boy, I'd like to see that. But yeah, literally just any wide receiver. Give it to me.
What about, Kyle, you talked a little bit about the rookies that you would like to see added to the defense. Are there any of the free agents that you think might be a good fit that would make sense financially?
JJ Watt, I think, would be a good one. Yeah, I don't expect them. I know, like, it sounds like Matt Milano's going to test the market. I've always been a fan of his game. I think he's going to want more than they're willing to pay. I don't think we're going to pay for a linebacker this year or maybe ever. I don't know. But I guess offhand, he would be a guy I like, but I don't think they'll pay for. I'm not sure. Patrick Peterson's interesting. And I like the Curtis Samuel call as well, Jake, to go to offense. I think he would be a really interesting player in the Lafleur offense with
that would.
You know, his speed and he's just a dynamic player, and you can hand it to him. You can run jet motion, and you know you got to keep your eyes on him. You know, it gives Rodgers a chance to read the defense, and they got to respect Samuel's ability, and his speed and playmaking ability would be pretty awesome. But yeah, JJ Watt and Curtis Samuel, let's just do that. That would be let's do that and get that done.
Yeah, I honestly that match, and I really like. I started thinking about after reading the article, man, Jonnu Smith really would be fun.
Yeah,
I know Robert Tonyan was awesome, but
yeah,
you know, man, having Jonnu Smith as part of that offense would be really cool. And I'm kind of pulling for that. I hope they find a way to pull that off.
Dustin, would you feel comfortable with your man crush being a hometown guy? Would you be comfortable seeing him in Lambeau?
Well, I got to keep this PG, but let's just say it would make a lot of blood flow. Let's put it that way.
Justin is the biggest Jonnu Smith fan I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Yeah, he was my guy last offseason. I was all in on him, and looked good for like the first 5 weeks and then disappointed me after that.
Yeah, we definitely talked a little bit about him on the Titans one. Obviously, they want him back there too, and but so I want to go back, and this all kind of centers around Aaron Rodgers, right? Because like we thought going into last year, like he was kind of starting to go downhill a little bit. I mean, I feel like there were some fair criticisms. I understand as a fan, maybe not wanting to do that, but experienced some of that with Drew Brees before just accepting like, yes, he's less than he was. But like he certainly seemed that way, and he proved everybody wrong this year by going out and having just an unbelievable year. You guys focus on redraft. So when the season starts, like how high are you ranking Aaron Rodgers? Dusty, I'll go back to you first.
I don't have my early off-season rankings pulled up, but I'm pretty sure I have him at like probably about, I think, 8 overall. in my rankings for next season. I mean, he should be a surefire number one QB without question. Do I see him repeating in this offense, repeating what they did this season? Probably not. Most likely there's going to be regression. Anytime you see an offense like this year, it was the Chiefs last year, they always regress a little bit back to what the rest of the league does. So while Rodgers still should be a number one QB for you for redraft specifically, I wouldn't expect him to finish as high as he did this last year. It's within his realm of possibilities. Obviously, we saw it this year, but I just wouldn't expect it.
Jake, what do you think? Where is that 8? Does that sound right? Do you think he needs to be higher?
I think it's fair because I do expect the touchdown numbers to come down. They just have to. It was so incredibly efficient. I don't know how you can replicate that. But even supposing he could still stay at 40 touchdowns and he would have a very, very good year. So I will not take him out of the top 10. I learned that lesson the hard way this year. I bet against him this year thinking there's just no way. I saw what you saw, Cal. There's certain narratives that are out there for a reason, and that one seemed to be true. But am I taking him out of the top 10? No. So yeah, I think the lowest I would absolutely go is maybe 9 or 10, but I could see a world where he's still a top 5 guy this year.
So I have him at 9 in my dynasty rankings, not even just redraft, in my dynasty rankings, because sometimes in dynasty we think way too long term. We're like, oh, wow, cool. Jared Goff is 25. That's great. And we forget that a guy that I can't even remember his name was beating him out for a job at the end of last year. And now he's in Detroit with a tight end coach, that wants him to bite knees. Give me Aaron Rodgers. Cause I know if I had to bet, I did this poll and it was Tom Brady, but you can say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers. If you had to bet an amount of money that mattered to you, who was going to have more QB1 weeks for the rest of their life? And I had Brady, but say Rodgers. I had Goff. I had Wentz, and I had Daniel Jones. And to me, I don't want those young guys just because their age is lower. I want the guy that I know. Aaron Rodgers is going to go out there, and every time he's on the field, he's going to be a QB1 or close to it. One of those two. Mm-hmm. Kyle, do you do ranks?
Actually, I just did offensive and defensive ranks recently.
Where do you put Rodgers?
I believe I had him at 9 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it was either 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I had a hard time sliding him out of that one spot, but it happened.
Hey, he's the MVP. I mean, certainly you got to think about that side of it, and just and we'll wrap it up here. And but I guess just from someone who just appreciates Aaron Rodgers' game, there was a point there where if the Packers were on their 40-45 with 10 seconds left, down by less than 7, you thought the Packers had a chance to still win it because they just kept throwing the ball and completing it a Hail Mary in the end zone. Didn't matter if he was rolling out to his left and throwing against his body and it didn't matter.
If you can throw game-winning touchdowns from 50 yards out to Richard Rodgers and Jeff Janis, yeah, you're doing something right.
Yeah. And I think even if, and he's not showing he doesn't have the same injury history as Drew Brees, but I know as a fan, I got to a point where it was clear Brees' arm just wasn't quite there. Rodgers is none of that, right? I mean, his arm, you could quibble about certain things with him in the last couple of years. It wasn't his arm strength, right? Yeah.
I look good. I mean, he still looks good. He looks dynamite. Maybe he's got on the kale diet that Tom Brady's on. I don't know, but whatever he's doing, it's working. Maybe it is the spite machine. Maybe that Jordan Love draft pick really did light the fire under the guy who's been in the league for 15 years. I don't know.
Did you see the quote that he was like, yeah, I mean, I even went back to squatting. Did he not back squat before Jordan Love was drafted? Is that a thing?
I don't know, but I love it.
I think he started working out with Jake from State Farm, and it really got him.
Yeah.
It really got him in shape for this year.
Hey, AJ Watt going there makes a lot of sense now,
Right?
even more. He's going to get him working out.
They're going to
No
eat
doubt.
cinder blocks and bench press stuff.
It'll be one of those sweet 80s action movie montages of them just like trying to lift cars and stuff all off season.
Just like 40 high fives. Just like
I want that image of them, like Stallone Arnold Schwarzenegger and the other guy from Predator who do that like sweet, high five grab and then they flex into the camera.
Yes.
I want that between those two.
Yeah,
That's a State Farm commercial right there. Like that's that needs to happen.
Yep, absolutely.
Last word on the Packers. Anything else from today that we didn't get to cover that you want to talk about, Dusty? Oh, is Dusty with us? Hello? Are you there? Hey. I think Dusty might be frozen.
He's so excited that he's actually frozen.
Kyle, last word on Packers. Anything else that you found in your research that you want to throw out there?
Not really. I think we covered a lot. Aaron Rodgers was great. I expect him to have another good year. We need a corner. The draft is going to be – free agency is going to be interesting to see if we make any moves. And we definitely have some holes to fill in the draft. And maybe we even draft a receiver this year. I don't know. That would be cool. But no, we covered a lot of great stuff. A lot of good banter. And, I'm ready to get past this NFC Championship game, though, next year.
There we go. Jake, what's your most controversial Packers opinion?
Aside from the fact that I think Randall Cobb should have a statue outside of Lambeau Field, I guess my most controversial opinion about the Packers is I think a lot of fan bases look at Packer fans, and I've heard this a lot on Twitter this offseason, right after the season wrap, basically. Because I'm sick of being the bridesmaid and never the bride. I'm sick of getting to that NFC Championship and not to the Super Bowl. And you say that, and a Lions fan hears you, and they just want to shake you. They just want to shake you and never stop, because we do need to acknowledge how lucky we've been, at least since the time that I've been a Packers fan, of at least always having a shot or feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my controversial take here is I don't care about that. It's not enough. I want a Super Bowl.
I love it. That's tremendous. Dusty, your excitement, you calm back down a little bit. It's good. Anything else that you want to add? Do you have a controversial, do you go toe to toe with Jake in your show and you go back and forth on who can have the most controversial take?
You know what? We try, but we end up pretty much being lockstep together on our takes, more or less. Except for when it comes to tight end takes. Jake is horrible at tight end takes. So other than that, though, we're pretty much lockstep with what we do.
What's the worst Packers argument you've ever been in? Like the one that you were like, oh, this guy, I can't believe he thinks this. I can't believe he actually believes this about the team.
Ooh.
Is there an argument that you guys got in over the team?
Is there a player that one of us really likes and the other one doesn't? Because I'm struggling to think about that, right? Our most heated arguments come down to Russell Wilson, because I hate him. I hate him so much, and I want him to go away forever. And Dustin's always telling me to just acknowledge his talent and respect his talent, Jake. And I don't want to do it. But I don't know that there's anybody on the Packers that we disagree with too much.
Would you like Golden Tate if he became a Packer?
No.
I'll never forget. You just mentioned that about Russell Wilson, and it made me remember that play. And there's certain guys on your team you would never want them to come to your team, and I imagine as Packers fans, that's one of those guys.
For sure. Get out of here with that foul Mary garbage.
Well, this was fun, and definitely appreciate you guys coming on. And Kyle, I'm gonna toss it back over to you just one last time. Where can we find you? What you're working on, and things that we should be excited about to see from you this offseason?
You can find my writing and rankings and stuff over at idpguys.org. diving into the rookies right now, working on that rookie draft magazine, covering the offensive and defensive players that we talked about earlier. Calvin, you're working on it as well. So I'm kind of in rookie mode here, and trying to get familiar with both sides of the ball there, and just gearing up for free agency, and it's Dynasty off season, so it's always exciting, right? You got to send out those offers and send some bad ones, some good ones, get some good ones, some bad ones, and flip your friends off for their offer when they try to buy the one again.
Try not to join too many leagues. Like that's always my thing. And also, like, just try not to join too many.
Yeah.
I'm like Dusty and Jake. Like, I am not like a rookie scouting guy. Like, that's just not like, I love Dynasty football, but like, I think about the teams. Like, I like to think about like their moves in the off season and things like that. And like you guys said, like, I'll look at the rookies once I know where they're going to play, because it's just so much of it is so different. So I'm way outside of my comfort zone in that Dynasty mag, but I've learned a lot, and you guys are really smart. And all that to say, definitely make sure you guys are following Kyle, checking out his stuff. He's really good at what he does. He's an actual expert, unlike some of the people I podcast here with on the show.
I'm not an expert.
And make sure you're following him.
Thanks, Calvin.
Jake, where can we find you getting your balls blasted?
Oh, man, my balls are blasted everywhere, really. But on a podcast format, it's over at Ball Blast Football, Ball Blast FB on Twitter. I'm at Jake Trowbridge on Twitter. I just do shenanigans most of the time, and every once in a while, I try and have some nuggets of information for folks. But our podcast, Drinking Fantasy, at Drinking Fantasy on Twitter, every Tuesday night. We have a good time. I think we're trying to line up some extra guests. Should be fun this offseason.
That's awesome. Certainly, you guys seem to have just an awesome time. It's really cool to, get a chance to interact with you here. Dusty, what about you? I mean, obviously the podcast, but anything else that you guys are working on this offseason?
Other than just spitting out content every week, that's about it. No, you can find me at FFDustyDog on Twitter, and I am spitting out takes and, like I said, spewing things, whatever comes to mind. So if you're into that sort of thing, come find me there.
I can't wait till I hear the Jonnu Smith, the Green Bay news. I'm going to tag you in it. That's, yeah. Now that I know that a connection is there, that's what I want. I want that to happen. It has to happen.
Justin's going to have to call a doctor. I think you're supposed to do that if it lasts for more than 4 hours, right?
It's very true.
We call those sweatpant movers. That would be your sweatpant mover right there. I like it.
Absolutely.
Well, for all these guys, for Kyle, for Jake, for Dusty, we're the Dynasty Vipers. You can find me at Calvin and Hobby. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, we actually really do have some amazing guests coming up. Find the thread. Like, we got Paul Charchian on next week. We got Liz Loza on next week. We got James Coe on next week. And then I'm doing 6 more of these team series, which are just so much fun. And even yesterday, we added another layer to it where I had somebody from my Colts show come on with from my Eagles show, and they interacted about the Wentz to Indianapolis trade, which was just so cool. So just so many cool things that we got going on. Nate Hamilton told us when everybody else is quiet, try to be loud. So we're doing our best to try and do that over here with the Dynasty Vipers. So for these guys and for the Dynasty Vipers, for Matt putting in a lot of hard work, we gone.